Welcome everyone. This is the Skyfallen's ultimate guide to Docker. In this guide, we'll cover what Docker is, how you can use it, and tell you a few use cases. So what Docker is pretty simple. If you know the concept of virtual machines, if you don't, let me explain very briefly. If you don't understand what I explain in this short time, you can watch a lot more detailed video by searching on Google or YouTube. So what virtual machine is, you allocate an amount of resources from your computer. You don't need to do anything special. You just download a virtualization software. It can be VirtualBox, it can be VMware. There are many options. That program will utilize your computer's virtualization feature. This both exists in Intel processors and the AMD processors, so you probably have this feature. If you have a computer from the last 10 or 12 years, you will allocate some resources to this machine, and that program will run a virtual computer. It will be a computer by itself. It will be sandboxed, so it won't be able to communicate with your real computer, but it will run inside a program a whole OS. That whole OS can do anything, but the problem is you need to allocate resources. What I mean is, if you say allocate 2 cores, even if the machine is using a single core, you won't be able to use a second core unless that virtual machine is shut down, and it's slow and not as efficient as running it bare metal. So if you allocate 2 gigs of RAM and a single core processor, it will be a lot slower than doing it with on a physical machine with just 2 gigs of RAM and a single core processor. So keep this in mind, it's not that efficient. What Docker does is it uses your own kernel, your operating system's kernel, so it won't run a full OS. What it will do is it will just run a small process that will host the container that you run. The container is a virtual machine equivalent in Docker. This will allow you to run another OS inside of your OS with very little to no resource. It's not no resource really, but it's so low that you won't really even care it's running. So what this allows us to do is you can run containers within web servers which doesn't have a lot of resources, system resources, and that will allow you to do a few amazing things. One, what generally happens in the web world is you try to download something and install it from the terminal. You'll have dependency errors or you'll have hard time configuring it. What Docker will allow you to do is download pre-built images, and it's so common that any program or software you use will probably have a Docker image. So you'll just pull this low size image. It will be somewhere within 60 to 70 megabytes to around 400 or 500 megabytes or something, and this will be launched immediately after it downloads. It's blazing fast. So let me show you how it is pretty quickly. So I say the the Ubuntu image, if it has it within my computer, it will just run it from there. If it doesn't, it will just pull it from the Docker hub, which I'll show you in a sec. And after it's running, it will run this bin bash process. I'll say continuously run it, and if we close this process, the whole container will die. So I'd like to also make it detached, so that even if I'm not connected to the terminal of this machine, it can still run in the background. Yes, it's that argument shouldn't be here. Yes, Now we have this terminal. So what has happened is it's created a container for us. The other one was from our failed attempt. If that container is a machine by itself, and let's see how much resources it does use. It's just 912 kilobytes of memory, whereas if you had run Ubuntu in a virtual machine, Ubuntu server, it would have used at least a few hundred megabytes and would be a lot slower if you really use this on like a it would have been a lot slower if you use this on a web server with very low specs, so it's perfect. Now what we can do is we can execute a command inside of it, so I can say -it. This time it's not run because we already have the container. We'll just say execute itt again Ubuntu. I know we know its name, Blissful Leman. And we'll say bin bash. And we should say detached because we'll connect it. Yes, now we're inside the container. That's full Linux terminal. You're now inside Ubuntu, and we can confirm this pretty simply by this is what my root of my disk looks like, and this is how the root of the container looks like, so we're definitely separated. What do we want to do is we can see the home directory and see what's inside. We don't have anything, so I'll just go back. We can now use apt, for example, apt update. Again, I don't have apt. This is my quest. You can clearly see uses brew, but for example I can't use it in here, and because we need to specify a port, it's completely isolated from our machine, both from the network and from the disk, so if this gets broken anyhow, our machine won't be damaged. So how you download Docker is pretty simple. You go to docker.com, get started. Say you can have this cloud-based version of it, but you don't need to. It's the app is pretty simple. We'll just say download for your OS. It's a bit tricky on Windows, but I think the instructions are clear and it helps you install it a lot. So you can just say download for your OS and it will just download it for you. It's pretty simple to install on macOS, so I don't show it, and since I can show Windows, we'll go on with Docker Hub. So we go to Docker Hub, and this is pretty straightforward as well. It has pre-built images, and you can find everything. So if you want WordPress, you can just say WordPress, and this image contains WordPress, a web server, and the PHP and the MySQL server all built in, and you don't need to do any configuration to run it. So it's pretty simple. It has many versions, so it is WordPress 5.5.3 with PHP 7.2 and the Apache web server, or you can have, for example, have PHP FPM with NGINX, or PHP CGI, or PHP CLI versions as well. You can find any version of it. Pretty simple. You'll just say docker run. Yep, it's here. This doesn't contain the SQL server, I'm sorry. But you can also find it in Docker Hub as well, so you just say MySQL. You can install it as well. So if you want to use an image from here, for example, I will think of an image really quick, what we can do. Ubuntu was an image from there, but let's just exit Ubuntu for now and delete it. So let's remove this. Let's find another image from here. Let me see. I just want your image. Yep. Postgres registry, hello world. Let's try the hello world one. I'll come to here and I'll just say docker run hello world. Here we go. What we do is, since this is an official image, it doesn't have the user who's created it. But if you have, for example, there was a few in MySQL. Here we go. This is not the official image, so what happened is this MySQL user is added. So we say MySQL. This is just an example, so then MySQL -router, and we have that image. You can just run it like this. And if we like to use a specific tag of it, like it was in WordPress, we could say PHP 7.2 version. Let's just have WordPress here. We can just have the PHP 7.2 version, and it will be specified after the symbols. So that's all for Docker run. Docker also has another function. What you can do is, let me find the you can create a Docker compose file, and it can create many machines with a single command. So I'll just show you what's inside that file. We have the version, and then we say services. So this is the app called SkyMake. You can find on GitHub. It's for distance education. You can check it out. What it does is it requires a database and a web server. So what we do is we have 3 services. I'll tell you what the third one is. Web app is going to use a Docker file, which is another type of way to build a Docker image if you're building it by yourself. So let me show you how an image is built. I'll say nano Docker file. If I could type. Yes, we just pull this image. We say expose to port 80, then we'll copy these files from this local path to the path inside the container. We'll run this command. This is going to install the PHP extensions. It will update, and then it will install localization packages, and we'll add these lines to the PHP configuration and create language. So it's pretty useful. And after this image is created, it's here, I can push this to Docker Hub and use it anytime I want. So it's pretty useful. Now back to this compose file, we can just say build this Docker file. We can have the environment variables set. We can have the volumes set in here. So what volume does is it will dynamically link. So if I change this file in the path on my computer, it will also change this inside the container as well. So this will enable the port 80 to be accessed from our computer via port 6713. The same for the database server. This time environment variables have the database information as well, so we just put them in, and we put our SQL file, the script that we want, that installs our database tables into the database, into our folder, and we say just put them inside this Docker entry point file in the container. So it will just have the table set up by when it's running. This will again expose the port. And we have the database admin, which will connect to our database server. This is phpMyAdmin. If you haven't seen it before, you can Google it. It's a database manager for MySQL. It will just run as well, so you can have many different installs running from the same file. I'll just show you how it works. We'll say docker compose up. These images are pre-built, but it's now started our machine. So if I go to localhost 67, oops, yes, here we go. This is phpMyAdmin. For example, we can just log in here. You can see our database tables are created beforehand for us, so it's pretty convenient. If I like to stop it, I can just say Control C and it will stop all of them, and that's really all. If you'd like to also suggest us for video ideas, you can use comments on the site. Thanks for watching this video. We hope you find it useful. It's been a bit complicated, but we hope you understood it. Thanks for watching again. See you in another episode.